Hey, hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, I have such a special treat for you. So, one of my dearest friends in the world, it happens to be an Olympic gold medalist and is just an incredible human being. Her name is Suzannah Bianco, and she is obviously Olympic gold medalist in synchronized swimming, which was recently renamed artistic swimming. She's a performer with Cirque du Soleil, entering her 23rd year of performing. She's a health and hormone balance coach and the founder of Powerful Perimenopause. She's a mom of two college-age students, lives in Las Vegas, and has a super cute dog. Like the cutest dog that she dances with. And it just like, oh my gosh, you and your dog bring me so much joy. Hi, Suzannah.
Hi, Rachel.
So happy you're here. Okay.
Me too.
Start off, just tell us a little bit about you and your background.
So I started synchronized swimming when I was 8 years old with no Olympic dreams, no intentions for that kind of thing. It was just something I was doing that my sister was doing. And actually, when I started, it wasn't an Olympic sport yet. They only had world championships. So I didn't have the possibility to have the dream of Olympic dreams. And 1984 was the first time synchronized swimming was in the Olympics. And I saw the possibilities for the first time. I was 11. And it was a thought in my mind, like, I could do that. Maybe I can do that. And as I progressed through my swimming career, it wasn't so much the drive of the Olympics from being a young person, because it was always there. It was actually just the next step. It was the regional competitions. It was the national competitions. And then when I was 14, I went to my first international competition, and getting that kind of flavor and getting that kind of understanding of what was possible and getting the like bitten by the bug of success and championships. And I just didn't have it in my mind that I couldn't succeed. Like I realized I can succeed. And I also realized the things to do to work to make it work. It was gradual, and it was always there. So
how did you develop that confidence of I can do this? Because a lot of times when people are doing anything in life, you know, it could be business, it could be athletics, it could be anything, of reaching that highest level of success. A lot of times there's like imposter syndrome where I can't do it or it's not possible. So how did you have that confidence to say, I can actually make this happen? Like, this is a dream and I'm going for it.
Well, I definitely didn't have imposter syndrome because we worked hard from the time I was 11. I guess we started doing 5 days a week, and at 12, I was doing 6 days a week in the pool. And in synchronized swimming, one of the things about it is that there's no way you get better at it other than just doing it. So just being in the water and making friends with the water and learning how you float and sink and how you resist. So there's a whole element of gravity that is challenging. That is this, that you just have to work at it. And we trained a lot. And from the time I was young, there was this standard of excellence in my club and a standard of pride in what you were doing. And so I learned that very young, which was instrumental, I think, to take ownership of the work that you were doing, to be in excellence from a very young age. And also, I didn't have, no, that's not true. I did have a voice when I was about 10 who said, you'll never make it. You don't have what it takes. And I had, my dad called it my like rooster energy. And I had an energy in me that would just puff up and be like, oh yeah, watch me. So I did have that inkling. There was one coach who was like, you'll never be anything, you know, you should just quit now. And I was very motivated by that. And so I kept that with me. And it's funny because it took me years to actually like go in and forgive that coach for saying that.
Right.
And when I did finally confront her, it was probably 10 years later. And interestingly enough, her react was like, well, what I did made you better. So I was like, "Oh, okay, you're right."
So you're 10 and you have like a mentor, someone that you look up to saying you can't do it. I'm like curious inside your head, that 10-year-old girl having that confidence to say, yes, I can. Because a lot of people would have like folded and said, she's right. I'm not cut out for this. So what was it in you that said like, screw you, I'm doing it?
I was definitely feisty in that.
Yeah.
I definitely have something in me that likes the challenge. It's funny
Mm,
because I don't really consider myself very competitive. And in my personality, like in all the tests and stuff, I'm not a competitive person. I'm not competitive. I was never competitive with my sister, who was 2 years older.
mm,
Even when we got on the same team, like we were terrible for the news media because we were like, yeah, we like each other, we support each other, we're great, we're both going to do fine. Like there was no drama in my life from being competitive, but there was this internal personal thing that's where my competition was inside of myself to push more and to be better and to be higher and to be stronger, faster, higher, stronger, which is the Olympic Citius,
mhm,
Altius, Fortius. So I had that in me. I had a ton of support from my parents,
mhm.
which made a big difference. I was never allowed to quit anything. There
Even
was
at
times
like a,
during this,
at a young age too, like with
yeah.
everything, they
Hmm.
basically said like, did you go to them saying I want to quit this, and they basically said no, or how did that work?
Essentially,
Yeah.
when there's tough times and teams and struggle and whatever was going on, they said, "We hear you. You've made a commitment to swim for this whole season. So
Mm,
you swim for the whole season. Then at the end of the year, when it's all done and you've done what you said you would do, then you can choose."
hmm.
So, of course, by the end of the year, I always wanted to continue. So it wasn't ever, um, I didn't ever want to not continue because
Yeah.
I had succeeded and, we'd gotten through all the hard stuff and now it was the fun part.
Yeah.
So as a child, I saw the benefit of not being allowed to quit and being held to a standard to fulfill the commitments that you say you're going to do, even at 10 years old.
Hmm. That's
And that,
powerful.
it really is powerful because it goes on. That way of thinking continues on because it doesn't get like easier in high school when you have different social pressures and you're missing out on stuff. It's not like, I wonder if I'm missing out like on social things and things that are important when you're in high school.
Hmm.
I knew what I was missing out on and
Yeah.
I knew what I was choosing.
Yeah.
And I also had an understanding that I was going to make those sacrifices and I was okay with it.
Was it
So
hard?
it did,
Because, yeah, because
yeah,
I remember like in high school when I was playing volleyball, we were not allowed to miss practice or anything
ever.
for, yeah, for a dance or anything like that. It's like,
Nope.
nope, like you're showing up and you're doing it and your team needs you. So did you ever have that like, oh, I wish I could be there, or I want to like miss that like practice, or what was
Of
going through your
course.
head? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a conscious um like battle
Hmm.
because I knew what the choice was. I was going to go to practice.
Right.
And I also knew while everyone else on my team was making the same choice and had been making the same choice. And I had that angst of missing out.
Hmm.
And it's something that you get to focus and just do the work.
Hmm.
So sometimes I showed up at most things. Well, I still do because I perform with wet hair. So I would show up at dances at 8 o'clock with wet hair because I finished practice at 7 or
Yeah.
something like that. So I accepted that about myself. And even in high school, I was training 3 days a week in the morning. So I would train from 5 to 7:15 and get out. Class started at 8. I would show up at class 3 days a week in my swim parka, bundled up with wet hair all the time. Like people just knew me. And it was part of my identity and it's part I accepted as well. I
Hmm.
didn't, I didn't, I knew I was different. I knew I was doing something that was more than what some of my peers were doing. And
Hmm.
I knew that they couldn't relate and they
Right.
couldn't understand. And I had to figure out how to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And this is actually a theme that's gone through my whole life because, as you and I have discussed, I've never fit into the boxes of normal. And I tried for a long time. I tried to be what I would consider normal. And it didn't suit me. And when I figured out that I get to walk my own path and um, tread, like hack away with the machete at my own path,
Yeah.
and then it was good and it was fine and it was good for me, then I was more free to stop looking back and being like, but I'm not normal. I can't do the things that other people do.
Yep.
So that there's a lot of freedom
Yeah.
in really being myself.
So you're winning like championships and you're on your way to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then you get to the Olympics and you win. What comes after that? Like what was going through your head after you win when people would like approach you of like, are you gonna do it again? Or what's your next step? Or how did you celebrate if you did? And then create the like what's next, you know?
It's really interesting because a lot of something I didn't like chide a reporter, but I almost did because we were off the medal stand. We had just listened to our national anthem being played, which I still cannot listen to it to this day without crying at some point during the national anthem. It's just impossible because I have such an emotional anchor to that moment. So it was a reporter, and I think at that time it was a really popular thing to say, like, what are you going to do after
Mhm.
you've won whatever championship in whatever sport? And the popular thing to do was say, go to Disneyland. So I had a reporter ask me, so what's next? What are you doing now? And I said, I'm living in the moment. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not worrying about what's next right now. I am
Yeah.
celebrating what's just gone on. I'm taking this all in.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling this like, how dare you try and
Yeah.
take this celebration from me right now?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pointed. Like, I don't know how it came off on camera, but I think it was okay. But to understand that that's celebrating and reveling in the moment of accomplishment and
Hmm.
letting that like seep into your pores
Yeah.
and letting it fill up your being is really important
Hmm.
because we don't do that enough. We're always on to this what's next.
Yep.
And I didn't know what was next
Yeah.
after the Olympics. I had some ideas. I knew I was going to take some time off. We had some PR requirements for a few months afterwards. I didn't know what kind of exercise I was going to do.
Mhm.
I was familiar with detraining, which is like an important part of an elite athlete going from full sport to like being not in training 6 to 8 hours a day. So had the intention to keep exercising regularly,
Hmm.
which went okay, but it's kind of hard when you're trying to just decompress and
Right.
process all the emotions of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have an idea what was next. And I got a call from Cirque du Soleil. And actually, maybe it was, yeah, a letter, a handwritten, like a typed one. And they said, hey, we have a show. We'd love you to come do an audition. I had no idea what Cirque du Soleil was.
Hmm.
My sister lived in LA. There was a show there. So we went down to an audition tent and I auditioned for Cirque du Soleil, this one of the strangest things I'd ever done because they asked all this creative work and energy and questions of us, things that I was all unfamiliar and uncomfortable with. And we had to dance and learn choreography from this amazing dancer and sit on hoops and sing and whistle. And they kept asking, what else can you do? What else can you do? Show me. And that became a theme for the next 23 years of my life, which was um, like, what else can you do? What's available to
Mm.
you? Show me something.
Ooh, ooh, that's so good. Okay, write that
Yeah.
down. Like, what else is
Yeah.
possible?
Right.
Oh, that's so good. So, tell us the name of your show and for Cirque du Soleil.
My show, I am at the O Show, just O.
Yeah.
It's with Cirque du Soleil, and we're a permanent show in Las Vegas. We don't tour, and we're at the Bellagio Hotel. It's a
So
beautiful
wild
theater.
that I actually saw you perform and now like I know you and we're friends. It's
Yeah,
just
it's funny
so fun.
because people are like, "Oh, I saw that show 10 years ago." I was like,
Yeah,
"I was there."
that's hilarious. I can't wait to go back and see you and know like, oh, there she is and support you and
Yeah,
cheer you on.
I'll tell you like the two places to look for me because um, Otherwise, it's costumes and makeup. And unless you know like what my feet look like pointed, it's hard to find us.
I love it. So, our audience is entrepreneurs who
Yes,
want to be able to apply these lessons because I truly believe they're related. Like entrepreneurship
yes.
and athletics, they go hand in hand. So, what would you say to someone who wants to develop that mindset, that like tough, committed mindset? How can they start?
I would say the first thing is discipline of daily habits. Putting habits in place that
Hmm.
are non-negotiable. Not that you can't have variety, but you don't get to question whether or not you do them.
Hmm.
That's like going to practice at 5, getting up at 4:45 to go to practice. It was a non-negotiable. Like I didn't decide at the moment, do I want to do this or not do this? It was happening. So getting those daily habits in place that enable that place of I'm not choosing this, yes or no, I'm just doing it.
Hmm.
I'd say that was probably the first thing
Can
for
you give some
developing.
examples? Like some really great habits to incorporate?
Well, if we all need to move our bodies.
Hmm.
So figuring out when you exercise, when you move your body the best. And for me, like if I get up and swim and it's the first thing in the morning, the swim bag is ready. The swimsuit is in my bedroom. I get up, I put the swimsuit on. That's it. That's the first thing that happens. And so creating that kind of structure where you enable yourself to have that commitment fulfilled. And it's like micro habits too.
Hmm.
So the way that you get up in the morning, do you hit your snooze? Do you, the way you go to bed at night? Are you committed to having a nighttime routine or ritual? Some people call it rituals, like the things that you do to take yourself down so you can sleep well.
Hmm.
And the same thing in the mornings. Like you have to set up your day before, and it can only take 5 minutes. It can take 30 minutes. It can take long you want. But once you establish those daily habits and the routines of how you go about creating excellence and creating commitment,
Hmm.
then they're in place and you don't have to question whether or not you're going to do them today. You just
Hmm.
do them.
So
That
it's
is probably the number one thing I've seen
hmm.
with sports success and Cirque du Soleil success and career success that's been instrumental.
So another way to say that would be like keeping the promises that you set for yourself, that you make for yourself.
Yes, I would say promises, but I can even say I would use the stronger word like commitments.
Commitment. Keep those
Yeah,
commitments.
because it is like it's a decision. You decide to do it and then you follow through.
Hmm.
There's this power in decision of stepping over this line. And if you decide to do 20 things at once, you are not going to make it.
Yeah.
So you decide to do one thing, and then you can set up steps on how to make sure that one thing happens.
Hmm.
And then you establish that, and then you can do that over and over, that
Hmm.
process.
So for you, there's never you wake up and you want to hit snooze and I'm tired. I don't feel like it. I'm just going to sleep more. It's like what goes through your head of like you were up late, let's say you were at like a leadership training that went late into the evening, but you have a commitment to work out the next day. Like what goes through your head when you hear the alarm go off?
Well, for sure, it's just like usually some kind of like, ugh, already? But the option, the thought of, yeah, the mental battle of, I don't have to do this. Nobody will know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's one thing. When you're in a team environment, everybody will know. People are
Right.
waiting for you. People are counting on you. That's another way to do it is to really have support
Hmm.
with a buddy, with a team environment where you are committed to show up because then you are extra. If you need that kind of accountability to further you, get it.
Hmm.
However, whatever it looks like, whether it looks like having, okay, I'm going to text my friend first thing in the morning when I get up,
Hmm.
or whatever it looks like establish that accountability for yourself. I'm strong enough. I've developed enough of the habit where I can still get into that mindset and it's not a choice. Like you just pull off the covers and stand up and then start going. It's not a like when you don't give yourself the choice of I wonder if I want to do this today, because most of 50% of the time at least the answer will be like no. Especially if you wake up tired and if you have a compromised situation from the night before or whatever it happens to be. When we are in a situation where when we have compromise from whatever, and then we have this place where we want to say, well, I'm going to make a choice to do this or not make a choice to do this. If you have the commitment in place, the choice is already yes. So then you figure out how to make that happen. And usually it just starts with changing the place of where you are to moving to the next place.
So commitment isn't a feeling.
No, it is not a feeling.
Because there's times you wake up and you're like, I don't feel like doing this today. I don't feel like creating content today. I don't feel like writing a blog post, or I don't feel like going live on Facebook.
Yeah.
I committed. I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah. You get up, you do whatever you need to do to get yourself in the state. If it's take a shower, do that. If it's exercise, you do that. Whatever systems that you put in place for yourself, that's the best part about it, is that you can tailor it to however you work best. No one's holding you to a certain thing unless you ask them to, which is also great accountability.
Right.
But you get to create what this looks like for you, as long as you create this standard of excellence for yourself and you create the patterns of things that can help you take the steps you need to take. It's not rocket science. It is simple and not easy.
Talk to me about the mentality to be a strong finisher, because it's easy to start something, in sports and everything, right? It's really easy to start, but it's not as easy to finish. And it makes me think of like, we're finishing 2020, like we're ending the year. Right. How can we be strong finishers?
So part of strong finishing is a little bit of that soul searching, that deep down inside, like I get to do this and I get to feel good about where I'm going to be after I finish this. And there's a lot in sports and athletics, we do a lot of visualization. And it is by far the most powerful tool for me. Like, what am I going to feel like when that finishes, when I accomplish this thing? It doesn't matter if it's a big task or if it's a little task. At the Olympics, we had done a ton of visualization, not for the right after, but in the process. Like when I walked out on the deck, like I knew what the feeling of the air would be. I knew what my feet felt like walking on the deck of the pool to get out there. Like I had visualized all of that. Like I had already seen it. So when it's a big goal, working through the steps of figuring out what it feels like to accomplish that, and letting that keep you and letting that push you forward and letting that be a motivator. Because when you get there, it's there. All those same things you can imagine and much more are there, because there's always the X factors and other people and things that are surprises that you don't know are possible, and they show up. So that drive to continue to go through is definitely looking to the feeling of accomplishment once you're done. And we've had conversations about this, because like I said in the beginning, our society doesn't necessarily value daily celebration. And when you get into the habit of celebrating and making it important that you've accomplished on the little things, then it's even that much more tripled, like excitement, joy when you accomplish the big things.
Yeah.
And it rewires our brain for pleasure, to find the pleasure in the accomplishment, the feeling of satisfaction, that feeling of, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so many times we just run roughshod over that feeling. Oh, okay, I'm done. Okay, what else do I need to do now? And we just move on to the next thing.
That's so me. I've gotten better. I've gotten so much better, but it's like I accomplished a thing, I check off the box, and I'm like, what's next? What's next? Like always on to the next thing. So I get to really work on that celebration of
And it
looking
can
back.
be micro.
Yeah.
The thing is, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It just has to be this like realization and feeling in your body where you let yourself take a minute, and even take a breath and be like, ah,
Yeah.
I did it. Okay. And then you can move on to the next thing. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have an hour to celebrate or something.
Right.
But that rewiring of the brain is actually what that does.
Hmm.
And that the more that you celebrate the little accomplishments, I did it. And I do remember that a lot in training, like finishing a day of training and being home and going to bed, like, oh, it's done. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Where, because that was a physical finish and exhaustion, we don't necessarily give ourselves that kind of merit because our bodies don't warrant it when it's a task or when it's like I finished this thing in the series because our bodies aren't as involved as in sports.
Hmm.
But when we wire it in our brains, it is the same emotion.
I want to go back to the vision and having the feeling of the vision. And
Mm-hmm.
so you created this vision for yourself of what it would look like, what it would feel like to be at the Olympics. When you
Yeah,
were actually there and you were really feeling it and experiencing it, what was that like? Like
it
knowing you
was.
already saw it in your brain before it actually happened.
It's actually funny. I was with a teammate doing an interview last week, and we were doing memories for StoryCorps, which is it's a memory gathering entity. Anyways, they were asking the same kind of thing, and as we were talking about it, I remember feeling like almost like I would picture it like a fisheye. There was like a fisheye of space around us, and it was the feelings. It was all
Hmm.
the stuff we knew would come up, the feeling nervous. And at one point,
Hmm.
one team had come in and something had gone wrong in their routine and something fell over. And
Hmm.
they were crying. They came in just exasperated. And it was just like, nope, nope, shut it out, focus, focus.
Hmm.
And energetically, there was like a bubble around just my team
Yeah.
where we could stay in our space mentally
Hmm.
and continue that vision
Hmm.
because the outside stuff, the outside energy, and the outside, it was all there. But to be able to like blinders on and focus on what we were doing, that was really important
Yeah.
to have had that mental training
Hmm.
of putting the blinders on and not letting the things outside um, affect the energy
Yeah.
within us. Yeah.
And I've totally seen you apply all of that to your business as you're preparing to launch your summit and everything of just like blinders on. I have this
Yeah.
goal, I have this vision, and I'm committed to making it happen no matter what. And it's been
Right.
incredible to see you actually like just take massive action and making it happen. Like every day I see you and you're just like, you're closer, you're closer, you're closer. And I'm like, holy crap, she's doing it. Like it's so
And
exciting.
I definitely feel like I've had the same kind of mindset, like
Hmm.
not like, is this going to happen? Is this going to work? But this is happening and it's going to work.
Hmm.
So it's an incredibly present state. It's not a living in the fear of the future or the fear of the past or not letting my mind wander far out into these reaches of fear-based thinking, but to keep
Hmm.
it like this is happening, this I'm going to do the step by step by step, and I'm
Hmm.
going to keep walking. I'm gonna and sometimes I say it like this, like sometimes you see a path and it's clear and you know where it's going, you can see the direction. Other times it's just you with like a lantern or a flashlight, and you look down at the path, and the only thing you can see is your feet. And you
Hmm.
can see the next step that you're taking, and that's it. You
Yeah.
have no idea where this path is going, but you know there's a path, and that if you take the next step, then the light moves forward enough for you to take the next step. And this
Hmm.
process will continue until you see where the path is opening up. I
That's
have a
powerful.
yeah,
I
I have a
love that.
strong faith in that.
I had the exact same mindset when we'd have to run hill sprints, and it was like ski hill. So we're running
Yeah.
up the ski hill, and I always remember I would never look at the very top, because if I did, I'd get so overwhelmed of, oh my gosh, look how far I have to go. There's no way I'm going to make it. And it was like if I
Yeah.
just looked right in front of my feet, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. It was like one step, like just do that next step and
Yeah.
then you'll make it happen.
Yep, exactly. It's a way to put the blinders on for
Mhm.
yourself, where you're not pushing out outside energy, but you're pushing out that future casting energy where it's like, nope, I get to keep my energy right here and give it all right here, right here, right here.
That next
So,
step. So, as you're
mhm.
preparing for the Olympics, as you're doing things in your business, you have stuff come up. Like crap happens that you can't
Yeah.
control. How do you handle it when it's like I'm so focused on my vision, but I have these obstacles that are being thrown at me? How do you handle those?
With grace,
Yes.
with a lot of grace, without beating myself up, or if
Mhm.
it's something that's come up because I've made a mistake or because I just didn't know something. I don't let that self guilt, I'd never let that get down on myself.
Hmm.
Um, I let the understanding, it's not a beginner's mindset,
Mhm.
but it's the curiosity.
Uh-huh.
So let the curiosity be like, oh, okay, that happened. How can I do that differently next time? What
Mm.
can I put in place to make that different? Who can I ask? How can I get support?
Hmm.
Because those things are the productive mindset ways. Because the self-loathing and the, oh my gosh, how could you have done that? And
Yeah.
am I doing this right? Those will come up, and
Mhm.
it's like they can wave through and go away
I
because they're not productive.
I think that's so important because a lot of times when stuff happens, I see so many people internalize that that failure of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this, or I suck, or whatever, whatever that looks like. And I love how you said get curious of like, huh, I wonder what I could have done differently. Like, what else could I have
Yeah.
done that would have made a difference? That's huge when you make that little
It really is
switch.
huge. Yeah, the curiosity of not going into this super huge self blame, even if it was entirely your fault or your problem. The not beating yourself up on it, the not staying in this residual whirlpool of downward spiral thinking,
Hmm.
um, to letting that wonder and curiosity free you from the downward spiral.
Hmm.
Even if it's how could I have done this different? What would I do again if this happened?
Hmm.
So it's a progressive mindset rather than I'm a bad person and I'm not worthy and I can't do this type of mindset.
Yeah, that's huge. I love it. What's a piece of advice you would give us who are looking to succeed at the highest level?
I would say strive to do the things that you're doing in excellence and understand that it's a process of progress, not perfection.
Hmm.
Because if you're continually looking for perfection, that's an ever moving bar. Excellence is a different thing.
Hmm.
So you can do things in excellence and still make mistakes
Hmm.
and quickly get over them and hurdle past. But if it's this perfectionism, it's striving for something that isn't actually very satisfying.
Right.
And so, whether that be your morning daily habits, whether that be a huge accomplishment of a goal,
Hmm.
striving for excellence in each part of that every day,
Hmm.
it elevates your whole mindset for thinking of not just like, how can I just get this done, but how can I get this done that feels good, that holds to my integrity,
Hmm.
and respects the fact that this doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. What are some of the fears that you've had in, you know, as you're pursuing Olympics and in your business? And how do you get over them? Like, do you have that negative chatter or did you?
Oh yeah.
How do you get
The
over
negative,
that?
I self-talk all the time.
Yeah.
I know that's, as I've read statistics and studies and stuff, they say that, the highest level of elite athletes have full conversations with themselves on a regular basis. And this is true.
Yeah.
The what if question, what if da 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 da. What if that gets only a little bit of space and presence in my thoughts?
Hmm.
If it's to move towards solving a problem, then it's good. If it's to just create a scenario of fear
Hmm.
and um, like discord, then it doesn't get presence.
Hmm.
So the come on, Susanna, you can do this. Like I say that on the regular. Come on, you got this. Come on, just do it. Get it. Whether that's get out of bed or whether that's just sit down and do it. Put your focus. Get your head in the game.
Hmm.
The game is always whatever I'm attending to at the time. Doesn't matter if it's cooking dinner or if it's writing emails or creating content. It doesn't. That's the game.
Yeah.
And it's that self-talk, that's the encouraging self-talk. It's
Hmm.
never how could you do that?
Hmm.
It's never that. And you hear people say, like, how would you treat your best friend
Yeah.
if they were struggling? And I do that naturally, but that is the right thing.
Hmm.
How would you talk to your best friend? You would be direct. You would be like, all right, come on, let's go. Or I see it as a teammate, because I would treat my teammates this way as well.
Hmm.
You can see when someone's struggling. So have grace with yourself. See when you're struggling
Yeah.
and hop to,
Yeah.
because like we, the team right here, me, myself, and I, we've got um, we've we've got a standard. We've got things we're doing, and you can support yourself with your internal let's go, whether it's sticky tap notes, whether it's just creating that habit of you've got this.
Hmm.
Pick a phrase that supports you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was one of the hardest moments for you and how did you overcome it?
Uh, well, I think one of my hardest moments on the journey to the Olympics was Olympic trials.
Hmm.
We had, it came down to like, we had tied scores, and it came down to a swim off. And I hear my puppy at the back. He wants in. He's like, you've abandoned me for an hour. Um, so you might hear him whining, but there he is. So I had at that time to focus in like a racehorse.
Hmm.
There was so much self-talk. I couldn't even be around, like, I couldn't have conversations with other people, maybe like one person or two people. That was one of the things I always did before competition is like I had a duet partner, and she would be like chatty, and she would just be like socializing. And I would, at one point, about 5 minutes before we go on, I would grab her and be like, you're mine. It's just you and I. We need to like come in. And I did that with myself.
Hmm.
And I did that with some of my teammates to a degree. And to have that focus of, okay, you're exhausted. We're all exhausted. And this is it. Like, this is what you've been working for to make the Olympic team.
Hmm.
And um, it is like literally just inside going in and pulling it up out of your like inner core
Yeah.
of like, okay, and fighting the fear monsters that come in and say, what if, what if, what if,
Hmm.
and literally being like, nope, I'm not going to talk, nope. And having this mental discipline was probably the hardest thing. And the freedom of being in the moment,
Hmm.
really not letting, it's definitely that like one, it was even a more intense version of having one foot on the path. It was like, okay, this 20 seconds of the routine. Okay, now that's over. This 20 seconds of the routine. That's,
Hmm.
and you see people around you, someone messed up over there. Okay, nope, nope, you're not focusing on that. What, like the thing I'm doing next, the thing I'm doing next, the thing I'm doing next in the moment as I was doing the choreography. That was definitely by far the most difficult thing I ever did.
Hmm.
When we got to the Olympics, there was almost like a bolster, like a bubble, because the team around me, we all had each other. When it was Olympic trials, it wasn't every man for himself, but it kind of was. Like we were all competing for the same spots.
Hmm.
So these were my teammates eventually, but these were also my teammates from my club. And there was the sense of we're all going to do our best. And it was hard because I knew that some of my teammates weren't going to make the team, and I could.
Yeah.
So that, um, gosh, putting myself first, I guess, and being like, may the best man win type of phrase.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it everything I've got. And so are you. And we'll just let it go how it goes.
Yeah.
It was rough because we didn't have the scores. We went back to this room in the back of the pool. We had to sit and wait. It was like this conference room, and we sat and we waited and we waited and we waited. We had changed into our sweats, and we didn't know who was on the team. And they announced it. And they announced it from the first place to the final place on the team. And talk about I'll tear it up just thinking about it. Talking about, I'm a crier, everybody. I cry at everything. It's great. Hallmark commercials, McDonald's. I'm like, oh, it's so sweet.
Me too.
So having that, the electricity in that place was amazing. And when they finally did announce it, and we were all announced on the team, those of us, I had gone outside, and it was at Indiana. And one of the cool things in their natatorium, anyone who's qualified for an Olympic event in that place gets their name painted on the wall.
That's cool.
And yeah, I saw it last time there was competition there. It was Olympic trials for this last year. And so looking at the natatorium is right above the diving platform. And my name was the first name up there because it was a B, Suzannah Bianco. And we came out, and there was a man up on a lift in a tuxedo, hand painting my name.
Wow. Oh, I love that.
It was so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. What's one of the best books you've read? Because I've seen your bookshelf.
Oh my gosh.
What's like what? Yeah, one of the best.
In relation to what?
The mindset. Yeah. In relation to developing a stronger mindset.
Mindset. Probably the Bible.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because there's so much, especially in the Psalms.
Yeah.
There's so much of, like, David in the Psalms did so much self-talk. Like, what a model. And his self-talk was with God too. And the reality of that, I think, is probably the totality of how we get to focus our minds. Some people, like, definitely within all my competitive talk too, there's always like prayer going out. There's always a conversation of, okay, like, you've got me, I've got me, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So as far as mindset books go, I read different things, like in leadership. I love Simon Sinek's work.
Yeah.
Mindset wise, I think I've done a lot of my own mindset understanding because I haven't read a ton of it. I've read, Tony Robbins. He doesn't write books, but he's written just a few books. He only has 3 or 4 books out ever. And so following some of that mindset philosophy of this constant let's go. But because I've been doing this consistently for so long, even in Cirque du Soleil, because there was times in Cirque du Soleil when I had little children and I was going to bed at 1 a.m. and getting up at 6 a.m. every day, and getting up at 6 a.m. and being exhausted and realizing, you know what? Get up with your babies, get up with your little kids. They're 3, 2 and 3, little kids are.
Yeah.
And there's no, they have their own agenda. They have their own excitement. And I never let myself be like, you get to show up for them. And it's not their fault that you're tired. So you don't get to hold it, you don't get to take it out on them. You don't get to be angry mom or upset or super tired mom. You get to be pleasant.
Hmm.
You get to be um, you get to be the best mom you can be at the state.
Hmm.
So there was like this kind of self-talk and these prayers that go out all the time for mindset extends through everything, through business, through the kind of, wife you are, through the kind of mom you are, through the
Hmm.
kind of friend you are, even because friendships take that much work too.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
could totally have you back on the show to talk about like parenting your children with the mindset.
Yeah,
We'll have to do like a part two or something.
sure.
What does it mean to you to make an impact?
To make an impact, I believe that we get to influence each other's lives in a way that's generally negative or positive. And when you think of someone who has affected your life in a positive way because of their light or their brightness or the joy that they brought into the world, that's the kind of person that I want to be. I want to bring light and joy and
Hmm.
possibilities wherever I go.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's making an impact when you can like press into possibilities for whoever it is. It doesn't matter if they're, multimillionaire dignitaries of countries and or if they're the neighbor next door.
Hmm.
You get to make an impact by being your best self.
Well, you've done that for me because you are
Thank
just
you.
like so joyful, so supportive, so helpful with everything that you do, and you have such a big heart.
Thank you.
And I love you. So
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
you have can you talk about the perimenopausal series, what you have coming up and what you've been
Yes.
working on? Because I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. So I've been creating a series called Powerful Perimenopause. And for the ladies who don't know, which is most of us, unfortunately, which is why I'm doing this, perimenopause is 4 to 10 years before menopause. And menopause is a singular point in time when you have not had a period for a year. And
Mhm.
then anything past that point is postmenopause. So menopause isn't this like nebulous, like, ooh, what is it? It's actually a single point in time.
Mm,
So perimenopause before, postmenopause is everything after.
mm,
And most of us have never heard this before. And here I am, an elite athlete. I'm working for Cirque du Soleil, surrounded by people who are in the health world, people who are my age. And I'm asking questions. Oh, my body's doing this. This is weird. This changed. They have no idea.
hmm.
My doctor doesn't know.
Wow.
So I started to research. I'm a health coach. Like, okay, why are my periods getting weird? Why is this? Oh, this feels different. Like I just felt different.
Mm,
And coming to understand that like this information has not been out in the world. Like the doctors aren't taught in medical school about hormone changes in midlife for women.
hmm.
They're just like they know what kind of happens, but they don't really know what happens. So there are experts and doctors and people who have been making this their life work and their focus because there's such a hole in our collective understanding of it that there are experts that are doing that. And I have gathered 21 of them to talk about even basic stuff like what happens to your hormones in your body during this time of life and why there's so much negative, oh, it's awful, menopause is terrible. And I don't believe that. Like, I believe that I can move through this period of life empowered.
Mhm.
So that's what we're looking for, solutions to powerfully inform, educate, and gracefully move you through perimenopause. And that is starting on Tuesday, December 8th, and it will run for 2 weeks. And I'll have 1 to 2 speakers a day sharing the wisdom and the things that they have learned and giving us the kinds of things we need. And you can take whichever part of it applies to you because we're all incredibly bio individual. And what I need is not what Rachel needs, is not what another mom needs. So some women are starting to experience perimenopause in their late 30s.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
there's other women, like 51 is the average age. And at the same time, I know a woman that was 59 when she went through menopause. So
Wow.
like that's a big gap.
Right.
So yes, what's available to us is expanding, and I think that every woman, even perimenopause in their 20s and 30s, like there's things that you can do to affect what the rest of your life looks like,
Mm.
and creating those daily habits and those good things. And so that's what I'm here to present. I hope you all can come learn and join us.
What's the link for that?
So powerfulperimenopause.com. You
Amazing.
can click in, and PERI, Peri, MENO, menopause, PAUSE.
Amazing. Where can we connect with you outside of the series you're doing?
I have powerful. I have a Facebook group, Powerful Perimenopause. I'm on Instagram under this powerful_perimenopause. And yeah, you can find me there.
Amazing. Well, I adore you. I'm so grateful that you were on and we got to spend this time together, and I've gotten to get to know you a little bit better. So thank you for being on.
I am so thrilled that you've had me. Thank you, Rachel. I love you.
Love you.
Bye.